You are listening to Real Estate Today. To reach Deb tomorrow or with questions and comments about the show, please send an email to Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. That's Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. Now, back to this week's program.
All right, welcome back. We are talking on today's show about the home buying process and going through my world famous home buyer seminar. Last segment, we talked about picking the right kind of loan for your situation. And I want to finish up today's show on talking just a little bit about how the lender actually qualifies you, because I think this is a little bit mystical for people. The lenders basically are looking at two things. The first one is credit score, and I think we all know that, right? I mean, people walk into my office, they haven't been in front of a lender, but they certainly know that credit score is a big deal. Or I get people all the time that say, I want to buy a house, but my credit's too low. So they know that credit plays into it. I encourage you to go back and listen to, we've got a 3-part big credit show. Whew, anything you'd ever want to know about credit. Can you share with us what the typical minimum credit score is for a mortgage?
I always say my safe number is if you have a 620 middle credit score of the 3 credit bureaus, then chances are you would be eligible for a lot of loan programs.
Yeah.
But every lender has programs where you can go lower than that. And again, keep in mind too that the credit score could impact your interest rate and things like that. So
I've never seen anything lower than a 580. And those are pretty special programs, and they do cost you a lot. So you have to really think about, is it smarter to wait a year and get my credit score up into the 620, 640 range and be able to qualify for more conventional kinds of programs than to pay an arm and a leg and a really high interest rate at a 580. I think Karen and I both subscribe to the hold off a little bit and get yourself ready.
Yeah, I mean, I've not met someone who's been in a dire need that they have to go and buy a house when their scores need.
Right, because there's other options.
There are other options.
Shocking. Don't rely on your online credit score. We talked about that a little bit in the last segment. There are something like 37 different algorithms for figuring credit scores. So when you look on your credit card company and they tell you what your credit score is, that is not going to be the same number as if a lender pulls it, a mortgage lender pulls it at the exact same time, the exact same day, because they're weighing things differently. Different things are of different importance. So don't rely on that. My I guess, informal, casual, unscientific observation is that what your credit card company is telling you is typically at least 20 points lower than what a mortgage lender is going to tell you. So it's a pretty significant difference if you think you're on the bubble, which is why you need to go to a lender and have them pull your credit score and tell you exactly what you're working with. Something else to understand is that if you are applying with someone else, that they look at all the credit scores. They're going to pull 3 credit scores for each person because there's 3 credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Mm-hmm. They're going to pull all 3 credit scores, and they're going to look at the middle score from those 3 for each person, and then they're going to go with the lowest.
And that's what sets your rate.
For everything. So a lot of people come in here, couples come in here, and they may end up doing the mortgage in just one person's name because somebody else has a lower credit score, and it just doesn't make sense.
I've seen that happen.
So, yeah, we see that happen, and that's okay. So that's the big thing that they look at is credit score. The other thing they look at is debt to income ratio. Usually when I teach this class, I have a PowerPoint presentation, so there's a visual that goes with it. But as someone just told me, if I move my hands around, people can't see. You all can't see me doing that. So we're going to talk about it just sort of in generalities. But a debt to income ratio is talking about how much of your monthly income, and this is before taxes, goes to pay your debt. And for each kind of loan, an FHA, a USDA, the insured conventional, and the conventional loans, and the VA loans, there are limits as to how much of your income can go to pay debt each month. So they kind of actually, it's weird, they sort of back into the amount of mortgage you can qualify for, because they usually come to you with a number and say, I can qualify you for $225,000. But that's not really what they're qualifying you for. What they're qualifying you for is, I can qualify you for a $1,400 a month mortgage payment. Mm-hmm. They actually, so this is kind of how it works. Based on your income, here's how much debt you're allowed to have. If we subtract out your current debt, which is car payments, student loan payments, revolving credit, what else am I missing?
just any other type of installment loan.
Yeah, installment loans. Not your cell phone bill, not your electric bill, not your rent.
Anything that you are obligated to pay that appears on your credit report, or if it's like child support, alimony, something like that, that's not reported like that. But those are the debts.
Yeah.
Plus your proposed mortgage payment.
Yeah. So if they say, okay, I'm going to use like really easy numbers here. Like, okay, I make $1,000 a month and I can use $500 of that towards my debt for this loan program, then they subtract out how much current debt you have with your student loan payments and things, and whatever you have left over is what you can use for your house payment.
Correct.
So that's a really kind of simplified version of it. But that's the basic gist of what they're doing, and that's why they're asking you all of those questions about what your debt to income is. Again, a good lender is going to help you be strategic about it. And sometimes there's things that you can do to change your debt scenario that can help you qualify for a little bit more house. So those are all things that you want to take a look at. What else do you want to say about debt to income ratio? I don't want to go into too much detail because it's hard to teach math over the radio.
It is. And when I'm doing this with someone in person or via email, I'm usually telling them that, don't forget, we know people have animals. I mean, these are things that a lot of people don't think about, that a lender's probably going to qualify you for a lot higher on paper than what either A, you're comfortable ever paying, or B, would even consider. But if your ratios, the debt to income ratio meets a program guidelines and you want to know how high you can go, well, in theory, yes, you can get up to, let's say, $400,000 home. But is that really what you want? I mean, there are people who could on paper qualify, but they really need to think about if that's what they want to do. There's other things to consider. Like I always talk about animals or children or pets. You have other expenses that we are not factoring in on this.
Or maybe you're helping support an elderly parent. I mean, those are all things that aren't going to count as debt. One of my favorite stories happened several years ago, and I had a police officer come in and meet with me, and there was a house he really liked. It was about $115,000. He was really worried that he wouldn't be able to qualify for it. And he kind of told me his general numbers. I'm not a lender, but just based on what he said, I was like, I think you'd be okay with 115, but let's get you with a lender. And I sent him straight to a lender. And about an hour later, I got a text message from him, and it just said $250,000. And we both laughed because he was just shocked as hell that that's what he could qualify for. And there was no way he was going to pay that much. I think he ended up paying about $150,000 for a house. It opened up a whole new world for him, going through that exercise and realizing I can qualify for a little bit more. I think a lot of people rely on those online payment calculators, which don't include a lot of things in your payment. And so they're very misleading. So I definitely recommend you don't pay attention to those at all and get with a lender. So that is the last step. And we are going to next week move on to the fun stuff, which is searching for homes and negotiating homes and what happens once you have an accepted offer. We'll see how far we can get with that. So now you are ready. If you've listened to last week's show and this week's show, you are now ready to buy a home. Not really buy a home, but you're ready to look for a home, and you're more ready than you were 2 weeks ago. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back next week and continue this conversation with our home buyer seminar. This is Real Estate Today, your home for smart real estate.